coffee in here, please?
Oh, yeah.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Wake up, America. You've got a dog that needs walking. That's right, sunshine. Just put on a big pot of strong coffee and get ready to type your little hate mail with your opinions about kumbaya and flat earth insanity. Stand-up comedy? You want stand-up comedy? Well, we've got sit-down comedy. It's time for Coffee with a Dog. You make me laugh.
Oh, brother. I'm not going to make anybody laugh today. Nobody's going to be laughing. There will be no laughing. They'll be dying. Somebody will die here today, and it will be me. I took the mystery right out of that. We know who will be dying already. I might as well go home. Well, thanks for coming. Good morning, folks. It is Tuesday. I hate Tuesdays. September 26, 2023. It's a shitty day here again. I hope it's not a shitty day where you are. I really do. But it's been shitty here since Thursday morning. I don't know. It's like 6 days of complete shittiness. It's still like a tropical storm that won't go away. Like it's sitting on top of my house. And I'm not loving it. And I'm not feeling well, by the way, in case you didn't notice. I said yesterday on social media, when I'm sick, I could have a mild cold or stage 4 cancer. I complain pretty much exactly the same in either case. And I think it's a mild cold. Could be COVID. So stay back. You don't want to catch this. But yeah, that's the situation. I'm sick as a dog, as they say. Willie's not here yet, which is okay. He's in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. But if he does not appear here today, then I can just declare myself the winner of the football stuff and say I won every game because there's nobody here to fact check me. Now, if I'm honest here, I didn't write down my picks. I knew he was writing them down. It is on tape, and I could go back to the tape and see who I picked. But I kind of have an idea who I picked. I think I did very well. I think I did by memory. But hopefully he'll be here to fact check me and find out where I did. I don't know what's going on here. I have an author in the second hour, Gail Pinner, who has written a novel based on her grandma. I think it's her grandma, who was widowed during the Depression, just as the Great Depression was starting. And I think she's written a novel. I'm not sure if it's a novel, memoir, true story, nonfiction, all of the above kind of mixed into one. Yesterday, Nico Lagan, a Canadian masculinity coach, was the guest. And shockingly, he looked a lot like a younger version of me, except he had the points on the mustache. He had this going on. But it was a little disconcerting to me. And I'm sure people who were watching were probably like, whoa, what the hell is going on here? I started the day. Excuse me. I'm not doing well. We got the sniffles and going on. I might end up sneezing this whole show. But I started the day yesterday by saying I'm not a fan of these masculinity coaches, these people who think that masculinity is on the decline and we need real men to tell us how to be men, because that implies that a lot of guys out there, it almost implies that I'm not a real man, and that's them's fighting words, bro. Don't be telling me I'm not a real man. I don't care how big you are. I don't care how much training you've had in the gym. You tell me I'm not a real man. We're going. We're gonna go. We're gonna get at it. And I'm an old man, and I don't want to fight anymore. I'm an old man, but a real old man. I'm a man, a real old man, a man, real man, an old man, a real man. I'm shot. Have not slept. I say this a lot, but I have not slept because I'm sick, and I got like man flu, and I'm not doing well with it. But so Nico was here, and you know what? He made some good points. We covered 4 of his 5 principles that it required to be a real man, and I don't remember what the 5th was. But we talked about faith, and that's a difficult one because faith sound. And I jumped to the conclusion that he was talking about religious faith, and he said, "No, that's not it. I mean, faith in yourself, and that's just confidence. I don't know, or the belief that everything's going to be all right. Everything's going to be all right. I don't know where he was going with that whole thing about faith. The other one being a provider, one of the other ones being a provider, I definitely that resonates with me. I've always had that in the back of my mind that in a heterosexual marriage or relationship, the man should be the provider. Um, and I don't know, I don't know why that's part of my makeup, but I feel like if I can't be the provider, I'm inadequate. I think when on my mom's deathbed, she told my wife that I would always take care of her. And my wife was like, "That's not necessary. I don't want somebody to take care of me." Yeah, but that is who. That's how I define myself as a man. I don't know. I'm saying I put a lot of thought into that. Obviously, I was laying around sick all day and got a lot of time to think about the show and what I learned on the show in the morning. Um, so that's what I learned yesterday. That about myself that really put a big emphasis. I'm sorry, I'm not speaking well. Excuse me. On being able to be a provider, protector. Another thing, of course, that I think every guy should want. But notice we were talking about in terms of heterosexual relationship. The world has changed, and I hate to think that. Oh boy, here we go, opening up a whole frigging can of worms. I hate to think that we are alienating homosexual men and telling them they're not men. I didn't even get a chance to talk to him about that because it was kind of a long conversation. But the world has changed. I don't know for the better or worse, but I think acceptance is a big part of it. I've changed a lot in my view about a lot of this stuff. I mean, when I was a young man, I was, and I've written a piece on this on Substack about being uh, homophobic most of my life. Doesn't mean I was a hater of homosexuals. It means I was phobic, in fear of what I don't know, what I don't understand. And then when I say in fear, I never thought like I was going to get raped by a gay guy or anything like that. I still have this to this day, a reluctance to be one on one in a room with a homosexual guy who, if I think he might be attracted to me, it makes me uncomfortable because I'm always thinking, I hope he doesn't fucking try something, come on to me. Because I know, listen, in heterosexual circumstances, if a man is alone with a woman he finds very attractive, chances are pretty strong he's going to try something, even though it might be sublimated in some way, uh, not not obvious, but in 99.99999% of the time, some effort, at least mild flirting will happen. And I don't want that to happen with my friends who are gay. I don't want them flirting with me. I don't want them coming on to me. I don't want that. And it would be very uncomfortable on the basis of I don't want to lose a friendship over that. But excuse me, I have. I'm going to have to keep explaining this. I am feverish and full of snot. Anyway, so that's what I learned yesterday. What did you learn? I didn't get a whole lot of feedback, or I actually haven't checked the emails that came in last night. Got a bunch of emails coming in that have not checked, but just wasn't a lot of chatter about the masculinity aspect in the chat room yesterday, and I was expecting there would be. Anyway, a guy who tried and didn't do it yesterday. Jay Moranti was having all sorts of technical problems. He's been on the show several times before and never had technical problems, but he seems to have gotten them straightened out here today. He's with us now. Welcome back, Jay Moranti. How you doing, Jay?
Good morning, Matt. Really, really happy to be here. Thanks for having me on. And I'm really, really, really glad to be here because
well, let me just say this. You're in Syracuse, New York, which is not all that far from me, but I can see by the window behind you that you have sunlight coming in.
Yes, unbelievable, man. We do because yesterday when you started, I could hear you started, and you were talking about the horrible weather, and I was feeling it too because the last, not counting today, but the 3 days leading up to that Monday, 3 days in a row, no sun at all. And I was just feeling, I'm just like you, man. I was down in the dumps. So maybe it's the universe helping us out. I don't think I was going to be much of a guest. I was down in the dumps. I was like, oh man, I couldn't wake up. I feel a lot better. I slept about the same, but the sun helps. I went outside. I got a good walk in. We'll go forward. We don't need to talk about the technical stuff, but the real problem was the laptop was weird, and then my phone was. I could have done it. I'm doing it on my phone, so that's why I do apologize. I'm not really
there's no
a
reason
smart
to
guy.
apologize. Shit
Well,
happens.
but even this setup right now, technically, I'm more of like the actor. I don't understand like lighting. You're not supposed to. I'm not coming in too good because all the lights behind me. The light needs to be, shooting
it
at
is
me. But
what it is.
You can kind of see me. I can get through it. But yeah, yes, we finally have sun today. It's a nice day today.
I need it, man. We've been
Yeah.
It's been since Thursday. We've had just this tropical storm that seems to have parked itself over my house, and it's bumming me out big time.
Yeah,
I mean,
gloomy.
I got up
It's just
today
really
and looked
gloomy.
out, and it's awful. It's just awful. I mean, I know weather, but generally, a storm comes in 2 days or at the max, and it's gone. 6 days is incredible. So hopefully, it'll clear up here today. What do you got going on with comedy, acting, anything? You got anything going on up there? You
Yeah.
just
Well,
dormant?
I appreciate you having me on. What I want to do is I want to promote my Jay Moranti comedy page on Facebook. So older guy. I don't really do the TikTok. I got to figure that out. I don't have TikTok, Instagram. So I just want folks out there to go to the Jay Moranti comedy page. It's not everybody's speed. It's a little corny. If you don't like it, just keep moving. I'm just trying to get a little fan base going, and I'm getting more followers. And you've helped me, Matt. I've gotten some more followers on that since I've been on your show. So everybody, go on Facebook, Jay Moranti comedy page, for some. You'll at least smile for some goofy, funny stuff. So that's my push there. I'm trying to promote that. And really it's my only vehicle right now. I mean, I don't do stand-up comedy on stage so much anymore. I mean, I'll host or whatever, but with not doing that, I'm just a person. I just enjoy life when I can make people laugh. Can't always make people laugh at work or tell jokes at the grocery store. So, I'm not hearing the laughter, but I feel like I'm doing something when I do my little goofy videos, or I'll like put a joke on
Yeah,
there.
I
And I just do some,
that's something we
yeah.
deal
So
with
that's my vehicle.
with contributors to the program when they hand in a piece and they're telling jokes, but there is no laughter on them. It feels very dry. It feels really dry. Well,
Well, yeah.
with Laurie's pieces, I always put in some canned laughter just to kind of. And
Mm.
I'm not a big fan of canned laughter, but you got to have the audience
No, you're
needs
right.
some
You're right.
a little bit of.
Yeah,
Willie just
you're right.
wrote in from the chat room that he's working on an alternative location. The Wi-Fi is not strong enough where he is. Well, that's because he's in South Dakota. I mean, South Dakota is not really. It shouldn't be part of the United States. We should just let it go. Just let it go. Um, so anyway, Dave Landau. Are you familiar with Dave Landau?
Maybe. Is he a comedian or wait?
He's a
No.
comedian, yes.
Okay, yeah.
He's gonna be at the Funny Bone in, Syracuse, when is it? In next month or something, and I'm
Oh, okay.
consider would you be willing to go to the show if I buy you tickets and send you there just to, say hello to him? He's been on the show, and I'm kind of trying to, promote him as much as I can. He's really funny. He's got his own show on
Absolutely, man.
Blaze TV. Yeah, just go with
Absolutely.
your phone and just get like a little TV welcomes Dave Landau to Syracuse type of. If I'll clear it with him
Yeah,
in
make the
advance.
connection. Yeah, we'll talk about it. Make the connection between Matt. Yeah, I would do that for. I would go see him. Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be
that
great.
yeah, that would be
Appreciate that.
fun.
You're giving me an assignment, Matt. I love it. Thank you,
Yeah. Well,
sir.
I'm going to be doing the same. David Tell is coming to Governor's Comedy in I think next month as well. October 14th, he's going to be at Governor's here on Long Island. And to me, Attell is one of my, heroes in comedy. He's one of the top ones. And so I'm definitely, the problem is I have a very good paying gig that night that I have to give up in order to go see him. But who do you follow in comedy?
Ah, you put me on the spot. I
Wow.
watch a lot of. No, I do. I watch a lot of different. I actually do. Even though I'm clean, I mean, I like. I go with I do catch Bill Burr and Dave Chappelle. I think they're two of the best. Those guys are great. And then I just catch random. I mean, let's see here. Well, I mean, I really he's not quite as famous. He still does pretty well. Brian Regan, really clean.
Yeah,
Brian
yeah, yeah.
Regan.
He's very clean.
Well, he's
Yeah,
amazing. I feel he gets like an award for being the funniest guy. I've seen a lot of his bits. I don't think he ever swears. He doesn't even really do like an edgy topic. He's just kind of goofy and just talks about life and different things, and he's
yeah.
relatable. He's to me the funniest guy that's clean. I swear he doesn't even say crap.
What
I'm
about
dirty.
Gaffigan? You like Gaffigan?
Yes, he's good. He's really
Yeah.
good.
I
Yeah.
don't think I've ever heard
Well,
Gaffigan curse or swear or
he's
whatever you
pretty
want.
clean too. Yeah, and the thing about him is, my girlfriend told me his wife writes most of his jokes. I was like, wow, okay. He said that once in an interview where he was talking about how she writes most of them. I'm like,
I think they work on
"Right,
it together. I think it's like a joint
okay, yeah,
joint exercise. That's a good that I'm puzzled by that because lately I've had a couple of lady comedians on who are in relationship. Sarah Tulamash, who is married to Joe List, and Katie Hannigan, who is in a relationship, a living relationship with Mike Vicione. It's just weird with professional comics. I think listen, in music, people do that, but they're not like in a band together or that kind of stuff. It's just weird for me because there's no competitiveness in common. Trying to one up each other all the time. That would be like really tough if my
oh,
wife
absolutely,
was somebody who was just trying to be funnier than me
yeah."
all the time. It'd be a little bit.
Well, listen, it's perfect you said that because my girlfriend, she actually is funnier than me, but she doesn't like being up on stage. So I think I would struggle with like, yeah, she killed and I was just okay. I did okay. That would be rough.
Well,
That would be rough.
lately I am. I've had it up to here. Well, for people on the radio, I'm a foot over my head.
Way up there.
W-
He said it.
yeah,
Way up.
way up there with people who tell me that they can do, whether it's music or comedy. Just assume that they can do it. It looks easy. Friend of
No.
mine last week was saying that he doesn't like comedians. We were talking about my show, and he said, "I hate those comedians. I think I'm funnier than all of them." And I was like, "You don't even listen to them." But you know what? Give give me a joke. Write me a joke right now. Tell me something that works as a structured joke. You can't do it. You can't do it. I mean, unless you're stealing from somebody else. So don't. I hate it. I hate that people assume that they can be funny on stage just because you're funny among your friends and family doesn't mean you can be a professional comedian. And it's one of my pet
I could
peeves.
not agree with you more. I could not agree with you more. And it's one of the most ridiculous things because they have no idea. They have no
Yeah,
idea unless they get up there. And
right.
you can't just get up in front of you got to get up at a reel with a microphone, an open mic that feels like a show. See how you do. Once you get up there and you half of your or maybe not even half of your jokes just bomb, you'll go, oh yeah, this is different. This is different than just walking into the break room and making a funny.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Uh,
different. It's
so what
different.
on the
Absolutely.
acting front? You got anything coming up?
Yes, thank you. You led me right into it. Okay, so acting, this is really interesting. Um, Good friend of mine, Bill White. He's a local director. He does everything. He's acted, directed. Really talented guy. Bill is going to direct a. This is so cool. Staged reading of War of the Worlds. You remember War of the Worlds?
Oh yeah, of
Orson
course. It's
Welles.
one of my great inspirations in life.
There
Yes.
you go. And you know how so you know the whole thing about that. How when they I guess when they this is the 40s, right? When they broadcasted it, people that didn't hear the beginning. This is just welcome to whatever theater. They thought it was really happening. Isn't
I
that what
believe it
happened?
was
Something like that.
39. If
Okay,
I have,
1939. Yeah,
yeah.
I knew it was a while ago. So, anyways, it had people like some people were actually going, "Is this really happening?" So I know of it, and we are going to do a staged reading of that uh, the day before Halloween. So October 30th. It's just a 1 day thing, and it's going to be awesome. I
Yeah,
don't know
it was
exactly which. It's got-
it, it
So
was
there'll be because I don't
Halloween
have to.
night. Halloween night, 1939, and
Yeah.
the beautiful thing about it was Orson Welles had just taken over that show just a little bit before that, and he was kind of like boy genius in radio at the time. I don't know
Oh
where
yeah.
how he got that, but CBS was winning the ratings, and he figured out that. Uh, because they read a disclaimer before they went into the place that this is a work of fiction H.G. Wells, but he knew that most of the audience would not be listening. They'd be listening to CBS, and when they went to the commercial, it was just to the point of we wake into this for we have now interrupt your program for a breaking announcement.
Oh, that's how they did it. I
And
get
he
you.
timed it
There it
perfectly so
is.
that as they went to commercial on CBS, people would flip around and then just hear that warning that
Very
we're
creative.
going into. Yeah, very cool stuff.
Genius. That's creative. Yeah. So it's going to be fun to do that reading. Makes sense now why Bill wants to read it. Obviously, I think he doesn't want to do it Halloween night because we won't. People are trick or treating. He figured the night before Halloween to
Do
try to get
people
a good
trick or
audience.
treat anymore? Yeah,
Well,
we
in
don't.
this area, yeah, yeah. In this, not like droves, but they still even after the COVID, no, and the first year after COVID, not too much, but they're kind of back into it. There's a good amount of people that get into the neighborhood, the
Where we
suburbs of.
live, there's lots of kids, but I don't. I can say probably in the last 10 years we haven't had any trick or treaters. Way before COVID, it doesn't happen. I think people got freaked out by too many creeps in the world. It's
I
not.
understand. Yeah, it can be walking around at night. Anybody can be out walking amongst you wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
When
look
you
at this dude. Is that a real knife, dude? Or what? Look at this one guy. He's freaking me out.
yeah.
And there's police though. There's police driving around the neighborhoods watching everybody, so it doesn't get too out of hand.
What's it like when you were growing up in Syracuse? Were you a big Halloween kid? I mean, lots of kids out everywhere. Just
Yeah, and I did the cheesy store bought. My mom got me you had the mask. It was just what I mean, just the front mask and went over
yeah,
it. I was I know I can't remember exactly, but I think I was Spider-Man, Batman, things like that. And then as I got older, I tried to be creative and make the costume a little goofy there, get like a scary mask, or be like a Wolfman guy or something. But it was
yeah.
yeah, it was fun. My
uh,
family, because I'm the oldest of four, so I have a sister and two brothers. We would all. Oh, and that reminds me, I want to say real quick. Today's September 26th. It's my niece and goddaughter's birthday today. She's 20. Hannah, happy birthday. She's awesome, very smart young lady. She's in college.
Happy
She's doing
birthday!
great.
Come on, sing a happy birthday. I'm not going to sing with you. Go ahead.
I gotta say, all right, happy birthday to you. Birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Hannah. Oh, you're killing me. I'm
you
terrible.
know,
Happy birthday to you.
Saturday night we had a gig in a restaurant, and there were probably 10 birthdays, but there were a table of young girls who were getting up to sing happy birthday to the friend at the table, and every single person that sang was in a different key. It was the worst sounding. Uh, you know,
You would know as a musician. As a musician, you would
Happy
know. Like
Birthday should be an easy song to sing. It's one of the easiest songs to sing.
I
But
know
people,
if you're not tone deaf, I can sing it okay. You
yeah,
know.
I don't think tone deaf is really a thing. I think people just don't get used to controlling their voice. But I think they can hear that they're not really. I don't know. I don't know about that, but anyway.
No, I get what you're saying, right? It's someone, and then hey, if you don't believe it, if you just don't believe you can sing, if you have that, I can't sing, then you're gonna sing.
Yeah, that's a
I
good
think
point.
yourself singing, So maybe people are like, oh, I can't sing at all. I mean, yeah, there's different. Obviously, there's a naturally talented person that has an awesome voice. Other people have to work at it. I'm okay. I'm right in the middle there. I always say
Yeah,
scale of 1 to 10. My singing is like a 5.1, and
yeah.
then I have to go. Jay, you got to do this. I go. I'm not doing a musical. I'm not unless I'm just singing with everybody in the chorus. Oh,
Um,
one more quick. Oh, go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, one more quick thing in the couple things in the acting world. I did get cast. This is great. I got cast in Inherit the Wind for the Red House. What's great about that is that's more regional, a little bit more professional. So that's a good accomplishment. I got that. I got cast. It's a small part, but hey, it pays. It's at the Red House in Syracuse. That's going to be in February. And the little awesome connection is I love this. He's like in his 70s. So the guy, remember the Love Boat, Fred Grandy, the guy that played Gopher in the
Yeah,
Love Boat show?
yeah.
He is in it. He's like playing the main role, and so he's the main actor in this. So it's like, whoa, I get to act with a pro. I think he's like 74. I met him it was great. He was a really sweet guy. I met him at the audition. And the guy that played Isaac, the
The
bartender
bartender, right?
at, in the Love Boat, is directing it. His name is
Wow.
Ted. His name is Ted Lange. So
Yeah.
Isaac's directing it, and I'm going to be acting with Gopher in Inherit the Wind.
Wow, that's
That's going
pretty
to be my
cool. The
highlight of 2024. So that's
I'm
February 9th.
sorry, The Pig and Me with the girl. Who was it? Lauren Tews, I think was her name.
Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah,
That would make it an experience for me. That's what
right. Yeah,
she was.
yeah.
She was hot. She was hot,
Mm,
definitely.
yeah.
Um, you know,
And then the other, go ahead.
Orson Welles.
Yes.
Are you familiar with any of his other work besides War of the World, the Citizen Kane, and all? His
Yes, yes. But a long, long time ago in college, community college, I started in community college. I took a class, film class, saw a lot of really good older films, and that was one of them. Citizen Kane. Yeah.
He was
Yes.
a magician before he became an actor and before he became the radio voice guy. He was a magician, and most of his work is based on illusion. War of the Worlds is based on it's like an illusion. It's a trick, and uh,
Yeah.
a lot of that stuff was very influential on me. And I can draw a straight line from Orson Welles to Andy Kaufman. And people are like, where do you get that from? This idea that um, you're putting one over on the audience, which people generally don't like to be fooled. They don't like that, you're making a fool of me type of thing. But both of those
Right.
guys did that to great success, and I tried
Absolutely.
doing that, and it backfired. And a lot of people were very angry uh,
Well, I
with
think
that.
it's great you tried.
Yeah,
I think it's great
that
you tried, but it's the
poster
fact.
back there is Hank Porter, which was a character I was doing, which was an old Western character, and I played. I had white hair and the whole bit, and I went out playing like a uh, elderly person from country and western, and man, did it piss people off! Like when they found out that it wasn't real, because I had like a Hall of Fame plaque and all this kind of stuff for Hank Porter, and played it off like it was a real thing. People were like a lot of people were first taken in by it and thinking, wow, we're going to see a genuine, because they weren't really hip on old time country and thought, wow, this is a real, you know, a country western star from the old days. And then when they found out it wasn't, they were angry as hell, man.
Wow. Why do you think they were so mad? I mean, they felt like you deceived them,
Because they
like how?
felt like they were fooled, like
Oh,
it
yeah.
was a fraud, like you were putting
Well,
one
you
over.
make a great point. I mean, obviously, a magician now, when you go to see a magician, you're going in with a different attitude. You know that he's going to be tricking you and fooling you. You're kind of amazed at his talent. But then Andy Kaufman didn't care, and he was different. I thought he was great. I would never have the guts to. I'm just too nice of a guy to. I wish to have the guts to try something like that. But I remember seeing video because my dad liked him. My dad was like, "Watch this guy." I'm like, "Dad, he's so weird." Yeah, he's different. It wasn't really so much that he was funny. But the thing I remember the most was when he was on stage and he got his buddy to get into an argument with him, and boy, they both fully committed. You thought it was a heckler, right? That he wanted to just beat up, and they're screaming at each other. It might even came to blows. I mean,
Right,
That would
with
just be
the
in my mind.
wrestling thing too on Letterman.
Well, and then the wrestling thing is a like on an epic scale to just
Yeah, Jerry Lawler, I think was his name, and
very long. Yeah.
and he smacked him in the head. He smacked him pretty good. He gave him a good shot.
Well, that's the
Uh,
thing. Maybe you know better than me. I don't know. I've never been able to figure out, was Lawler in on it, or did he
yeah,
really
yeah, he
hurt him?
was. He actually copped to it. When the
He
Man
was
in the
in on a bit
Moon
of both.
thing came, yeah, when they did the movie on Andy Kaufman, he came out and was doing a press thing and was talking about all that stuff was staged, and yeah, basically right from the beginning. And you know what? Good for him. They had a lot of people fooled. A lot of people were really angry by it too. The whole wrestling women stuff. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
yes,
I thought Jim Carrey was awesome as Andy Kaufman. I don't know. A lot of people don't. It's love hate with Jim. Either he's over the top, he's ridiculous. I think Jim was a super talented guy, and I think Jim did a great job. And I think kind of he had a great career. This isn't screw him, but think about it. The thing that hurt Jim is he came into the world basically famous for bending over and talking out of his ass. So it's like Jim, when you talk out of your ass, it's going to be tough later for people to give you an Academy Award. He should have got nominated. I think. I don't think he ever got nominated by the Oscar Academy Awards, the Oscars.
wow,
He never even got a nomination. He should
he's
have at least got
taken
nominated.
he's taken a really strange turn now. He's kind of like this metaphysical guy.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't even know how to describe him, but he's
No,
it's
I've
it
seen it where he's like, this isn't me. I'm just playing a role, and he talks about the universe.
right.
We're all just
Not looking to do
he's
any more movies or any of that kind of stuff. Like
very
had
deep.
enough of it. Just
I know.
really.
Wouldn't it be great if the whole thing was a put on like Andy though? I was telling it, 'cause my son likes it too. I was talking to my son about Jim Carrey. I go, maybe the whole thing's a put on. We don't think so, but it's like it'd be great if the whole thing was just he was just messing around. Like I'm just gonna do this and tell everybody up this way.
Yeah. No, I
But I
think
think he
he.
really has. I think he really has retired. He doesn't.
Yeah.
He's made enough money. He doesn't need to do. Yeah, he's kind of.
He had such a weird upbringing too. I mean, he was homeless, I think, when he first came to the States.
That's right. Yep.
And then he brought his family down here, and he supported his whole family, father, and
Yep.
his nuclear family, all that kind of stuff. Interesting stuff. Um, did you catch yesterday's show at all with the guy who looked like me?
Yes. Yes, I
What?
caught a little bit in the beginning. One of my comments, I went twins, and then but I didn't
Oh yeah,
see.
that's right.
I gotta go back and watch it. I
Well, I'm
saw
just
some of it.
curious.
No, but
How
when
did,
he put his glasses on, you guys, it was like, oh, and then you said something like, "This is me." Well, later you said, "This is 35 years ago. Here's me." It did look like you. Maybe not. I don't. Give yourself more
yeah.
credit. Not 35 years ago, man, but it looked
Uh,
like you young.
what is your take on the whole masculinity crisis thing?
Oh,
Do you?
what you were talking about earlier? Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
glad you said that. Okay, ready? I'm like 5'5.5",
Right.
but I'm a real man. You know, if
Right.
somebody steps to me, what I would do is I would just get you or my friend Carl. I have a friend Carl. He's 6'6". Carl, get in this guy's face.
Yeah.
I'd have bombs. But no, I'm not afraid. I wouldn't back down. I mean, I wouldn't really want to fight somebody, but yeah, I don't know about that, man. I mean, the world's changing, and I think that I'm not trying
Yeah.
to be funny here, but real men cry. I mean, I cried yesterday when I couldn't. No, I'm just kidding. When I couldn't get on your show. No, but I mean, real men cry, and
Well, he was talking about crying too, because he didn't. I didn't harp on it, but he did mention that, like uh, poetry and some other stuff that he was reading,
yeah,
and a movie that
yeah.
always makes him cry. So but it's just
Well,
people are
just
gonna
Matt,
people are
just
gonna be
help
who
me.
they're gonna
What
be.
was his What was
Go
his
ahead.
point? Forgive me. What his whole thing? I don't know exactly his point there. Just get me up to speed. His whole point was uh, men aren't manly enough. We're not protected. What was he saying?
Yeah, basically, I think he's ultra conservative. He called himself a libertarian, but and I'm not talking about politically here. I'm talking about in mindset of men and women have old-fashioned roles that they were meant to have. Men do things better than women. Women do things better than men, and their roles in life were cut out by nature, and it feels like that's lost in society. And I don't know how anybody feels about that, but the truth is, we're evolving. The world is changing, and roles
Right.
adapt. And I have a friend who's an athlete. And I wanted to bring this up to him yesterday. He's an athlete. He's my age. He's he's a year younger than me or so, but he's kept man. His wife is a one of the premier brain surgeons in the United States, and she makes the money, and he stays home and takes care of the kids. But he's a manly man. I mean, he goes swimming and surfing in January in New York. I mean, it's still at 64, 63 years old, whatever he is. He's a very tough guy, and so I
Right.
think people change, roles change, attitudes change, and I don't think we have the right to judge somebody else as not being manly enough just
Nope.
because
I agree
we
with you. I
couldn't do it.
mean, yeah, that's because to me, we don't have enough time to talk about this, but to me, it's like it's a case by case thing. Whatever works, right? I mean, I don't think he can. I get what he's saying makes some sense, but you just can't say now everybody be that way because that's
Right?
what America's all about is being different. So it's a case by case thing. Like my
Yeah.
girlfriend and I, right? Like I said, I'm 5'5.5". She's 5'10". I always joke that I tell her you're 5'9.25", but she stop that. She thinks she's almost 5'10", right? So, but still, I still, it's just the presence, right? Um, I don't know. She was somewhere like I mean, if I would protect her if she's I walk her to if she's in a situation where she's like I need you, that I would be there. So there's me protecting, but I'm not ashamed to admit she makes more money than I do right now, so she doesn't really like need me to provide. We just have it's what works for us. We have a
Yeah.
relationship that works, and it's not the traditional. You know what I mean? It's like yeah, it's not that traditional. Okay, you don't have to work anymore, honey, and
Yeah.
you better
Well, I
cook for
had
me.
that attitude in my first marriage, big time, and like my wife didn't even work. I wouldn't let her work because I had just had this idea of traditional
Yeah,
family, the 50s, Donna Reed, where the husband
right.
works in it.
Yeah.
Clearly, it could have been better if she would have been. If I would have allowed her to work, we would have had a better financial life. Anyway,
Well, yeah,
uh,
but I mean, at the time, you were doing the best. That's the thing is, you just do the best you can at the time. I mean, I'm not saying, and then freedom of speech. I'm not telling this guy he can't say that, but he's probably going to get a lot of pushback. But he can say what he wants, and that's his opinion. But I think I side with you on you can't just blanket it and go, we got to get back to that. I mean, even if we all felt we had to, I mean, how could you? I mean, we live in a world now. There's not just two genders anymore.
yeah,
It's not
I hear.
how many
Uh,
genders are there? Yeah.
And I respect his right to want that in for himself in life. But these
Right,
guys who and I brought this up to him yesterday, is that these guys who preach this masculinity crisis, they call it, masculinity crisis, they're all
see, I
the
don't, I
most
don't, I don't think it's
effeminate men that I could come up with. Like Tucker Carlson does not seem like a manly man to me. Ben Shapiro does not seem like a manly man to me. Jordan Peterson
no,
is not
no.
manly,
Oh, no,
but he
right.
preaches this stuff all the time. It's just
Yeah,
very weird. Anyway,
yeah.
I didn't get a whole lot of feedback on that, and I'm surprised because I would have thought there'd be pushback from the audience on
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Yeah, but you
Yeah,
said you still have to check somewhere where there might be comments or because
yeah, yeah. I got
would
emails, but I get emails every day, and they're not generally
okay,
about today's show. They're generally
yeah,
about like shows I did a year ago and stuff. Like
yeah,
every day, if I get on average 15 to 20 emails, they're about stuff they found on YouTube where I said climate change is real, and oh my God, the climate change thing is really it drives me crazy because they how do I put this? The people who want to protect the corporate interests who are against the idea that the climate is changing. There are corporate interests. And the people who have been brainwashed, for lack of a better word, or
right,
propagandized by, to say that that's not true, miss the actual argument that that their own side makes. Because the
right,
argument that they make is that climate change is cyclical. It happens in every 10,000 years or so and all that kind of stuff. But to deny that there's any kind of climate change goes against all that. If you believe there was an ice age, then you have to believe the climate is changing. You may not believe it's a severe emergency situation, but you
Yeah.
have to acknowledge that climate change in itself is a real thing if that's your position. To say it's
Right, that's
not
just the thing
changing.
anyway. It's like they're missing. Yeah, good point. I mean,
Yeah. So,
it's just
but
one of those
I
things.
get a lot of pushback on that kind of stuff. One guy said that, you know, climate change is a complete hoax. That people, and for it to be a hoax, who would create that hoax? Did people get together and say, to dream up
Right.
this conspiracy? Like we got together, there was a big meeting in China of all the heads of the nations and said, we're going to fool them all and tell them the climate is changing.
Yes, we're meeting in a secret room.
Yeah,
Nobody knows. We
it's
got,
just
we got.
that
Let's
stuff.
put it out there.
Yeah, it
Got to
drives
do
me
this.
nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now over this summer, you did Shakespeare in the Park.
Yes.
Now,
Thanks for bringing it up.
does that go away in the fall? Do you do shows through autumn there? I mean, the outdoor
Great
shows and
question.
stuff.
Great question. You're leading me right to something I was maybe going to try to bring up. Had a little note. Okay, so we do the June and the August shows outside in the park, and by the way, West Side Story was great. We had really good crowds. It went really well. So West Side Story in August. Then it kind of quiets down, and we don't really do anything until around Christmas. We do a fundraiser, which is just a fundraiser to raise money for because we're non for profit, and we do like the executive director Ronnie Bell. He's been the executive director for 21 years. Does a great job with it, and he wrote this. I won't bore you with it, but he wrote Scrooge meets Shakespeare's Ghost. So it is a Christmas Carol, but the ghosts are like the witches from Macbeth. You know, Julius Caesar makes the ghost like Shakespeare ghosts. It's kind of weird, but it works. So we've done that a couple years. I wish we would just straight up do the traditional Christmas Carol. I've never been in it. That would be great. But we just do a Christmas fundraiser. It's usually just 2 nights, 2 or 3 nights on a weekend. So that's the focus now, is to kind of regroup. Nothing really goes on until December for the Christmas show, which, like I said, it's a fundraiser.
But that's
And I
indoors,
want to
right?
that's indoors, and I want to get involved with that. Not really as an actor. I want to help them. There's going to be a meeting, and I want to put my name out there to possibly direct it, or be involved more that way with this Christmas show coming up. And then we don't always do, but if we can, we try to do an indoor show in April. And because it's just a community theater group, we can do whatever. We could do Death of a Salesman. We could do whatever. We could do any. It doesn't have to be Shakespeare. A lot of times it's either kind of related to Shakespeare, or you could just do a Shakespeare. We could do King Lear in April. I don't know what's set up for this. I think we have something that's, again, it's not really Shakespeare, but it's a little bit related to Shakespeare coming up this April. So really, it's just the April. It's really just 3 shows. I almost want to say like 3.5, because it's the three and then the fundraiser in December.
I'm going to be doing.
So
I've been doing this the last 4 or 5 years now. Even through COVID, we did this. A Christmas show on a float in a parade, a Christmas parade, and it's brutal. It's generally they always pick the coldest day of the year to do this stuff,
oh gosh,
and then I'm on
oh,
a
the
float, and
wind's just
yeah, it's just brutal. It's really tough. But we get through it. I'm not a big fan of Christmas traditional movies.
shows, right?
The movie Scrooge, I like A Wonderful Life, but I've seen it 5 million times now.
You never need to watch it again. It's a Wonderful
Yeah,
Life, right?
and
Miracle on 34th Street. Yeah.
yeah, and the 3,000 different takes on Scrooge and Christmas
Yeah.
Carol. I've had enough of that. Uh,
I hear you, man. Yeah, it gets, come on. And it's weird. You notice they don't really, what's going on with that? I mean, I don't want to get all like, not conspiracy, but thinking, but like, I mean, why don't they, they writers, why don't we see I don't really see any new, really good Christmas movies or shows.
yeah,
It's like, what's going on there? You still got to do like the old ones. And you're right. I mean, how many times can you, I just think as an actor, I've always liked and wanted to be maybe Bob Cratchit, or just as an actor, I wanted to play that role, or maybe like the nephew in it. I've always thought I like it, but yeah, it's I mean, it's so like, what's the word? Overdone. It's like, okay, yeah, everybody knows
Yeah,
that one. Yeah, Scrooge. Everybody knows Scrooge. We know what
yeah,
happens.
and anything that gets overdone, loses my interest. Now, speaking of overdone,
Yeah.
Taylor Swift, are you a fan? Are you she's probably I don't know.
No, I'm not.
You're
Am I gonna get hate mail? I
Are you a Gen
just
X guy? You're a Gen X guy, and you're probably she's more a millennial
yeah,
her fan, right?
I don't see it. I mean, she's okay. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the big I don't think she's I don't think her talent level reaches her fame.
Her
You
celebrity,
know? Like I
yeah.
like I
I
saw somebody go like she's I saw someone go, she's like Michael Jackson level. And to me, Michael Jackson, his talent that made sense. That lines up with
I
that,
don't know. I really have not analyzed her from a talent perspective, but I do think her celebrity is overdone to the point where if she goes to a football game, it's on everybody's conversation list, and that
I don't
it's
get it.
really wacky to me. Like
It's
you
weird.
um, but the reason, because the other day the football games thing, and then last night because I wasn't feeling well, and I never do this, but I was just like laying in bed and scrolling through Netflix on my phone, and I caught this Miss America or something, a documentary of featuring her, and it was talking, her parents and all this stuff, and it seems like her father was rich from the get-go, and had this idea of just making her into a star right from the time she was born, and she was pushed
Oh,
into it.
that's almost worse. That almost makes me feel worse. It's so contrived, right? Isn't that worse?
Right, but she even
What
talks
did she? It's like, what did she want to be? Taylor, what did you want
right.
to be? Well, not this, but Daddy made me. Oh, come on.
Right, I didn't watch the whole thing, but what I did because I couldn't. I mean, I couldn't stomach the whole thing. But there's a point where in the teaser that she's saying, "I became who they wanted me to become," and I'm like, she's probably at the point of her life, a young adult, where sooner or later it's going to come back to her, and she's going to start to resent. Like I didn't choose this life; they chose this life for me.
Yeah, I don't think deep down she could be happy.
Yeah.
I don't want to deep here now and go, but I don't know how she. I mean, someone will go, Jay, what are you talking about? I mean, money and fame. Fame is so overrated, and I'm going to sound like a hypocrite because I want everybody to watch my page, but I don't know. It's like I don't want to be famous. I just want to kind of do. My passion is to get up in front of people, maybe make them laugh, do a play, but I don't know how much I think fame is
I agree.
scary.
I think
The money's
what
good, but
you're struggling with here is we all want an
right,
audience. If you wouldn't
right,
be in the performing arts if you didn't want an audience. But
right. I can't.
I
Right.
don't want people to recognize me when I walk down the street and
I
say
don't
family.
either. No way. That would be just that would be just you would not have any privacy. Everybody
Yeah.
getting in your face, wanting to talk to you, wanting an autograph. I mean, I don't think fame. No, I don't think fame's a good thing. I was actually thinking that when I was walking, I was going for a walk. I was thinking, if I could just, this JMRT comedy page that I have, if there was like just, even just 50 to 100 really good. I don't want to call them fans, but like followers that like it, right? That if I get those people into a room and do my stand up, I would kill. That's what it's all about. When you do stand up, it's not everybody. I know a lot of people don't like what I do, but some do. I mean, I've met people who are like, "Man, you're so funny, you're hilarious." Well, thank you. And then other people are like, "Wow, I don't get it, man." And I get that. You can't be. That's why stand-up comedy is a double-edged. It's a weird thing because you're trying to please everybody. I gotta get more.
No.
No, you just gotta do your thing, man. So you do your
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
It's like you
Uh
said, just um like what? Okay, what would be perfect for you? Like do you like a club, like just 200 people? What is a good audience for you? What's the number? Do you want thousands?
no.
What do you? Right,
I have played for thousands. The biggest audience I ever played for
awesome.
was about 135,000 people. Um
Wow,
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, that
So
was
you've experienced
many
that.
years ago. Generally, there are like twice a year I will play for 35,000 people. But it's a weird thing because not all of them are paying attention to the band on stage. It's like festivals and stuff, and they're doing all sorts of stuff. But there are that many people in attendance. But my favorite performing situation is in a small pub that is packed with people. I don't care if that number is 20 people. It's just so small that it becomes like
Yes.
sardines in the place. I like that situation.
Right. So I hear what you're saying. So like it doesn't really matter the size of the room. The room just has to be full. There you go. Because you could be in a room that could fit like 80, but there's
Right.
12 people. That feels so, oh, there's 12 people. We're doing comedy for 12.
The
Or
band that yeah.
a room that fits 30 and there's 10 people that you want the 30 packed. Yes. The energy in the room is huge. Great point. Yes.
Right. The
Yes.
band that
And the most
the Rockin' 45s, we started on the Nautical Mile in a place called Water Lilies. We were there 3 nights a week. And the place at that time held 75 people. Now it holds more. They've expanded it. But it legally held 75 people, and there would be 80 to 90 people in there every time we played. And everybody in the room feels like they are part of the show, part of the band. They're up
yes,
front, and that to me was heaven. I love that
there it
situation,
is.
but you
Right on
don't
the
get
money. Yep.
that. You don't
No.
get that on a stage when you're separated from people. I don't like being like
Right.
on a high stage separated from people. I suppose as an actor, that's probably preferred.
I
But
know it's weird that you say that. I've experienced that. It was tough. I liked it, but man, it was a little intimidating. I did at the Red House. They used to have. They don't anymore. They used to have a black box theater. It was like 45 people, like in an L, and they were right up on you. I mean, I could thank God the way the lighting was. I couldn't really see faces, but I was very close to the audience, and the intimacy of as you're playing your role, and it was dramatic. It was great, but it was hard. I like when they're back, it's dark and they're back a little bit, and you're creating the fourth wall. In most cases, you don't interact with the audience. You're just playing, you're just Joe, whatever. So I
uh,
like darkness and some, not tons of space, but some space. Is I prefer as an actor. But
yeah,
real quick, the most people I ever did a comedy show for was almost 200, and it was a great show. I wasn't intimidated. I did well with it, but I wasn't thinking, yeah, man. I was just good with it, but I wasn't going, okay, now I want 500. No, I was just part of a show. A friend of mine, the guy who produced it, and he also is part of it as well as comedian. He, like all comedians, God bless him. You talk about it now. He goes, yeah, we had like over, the story always, the number always grows. He has, yeah, remember that show we did? It was like, over 200. It's like, I know it wasn't over 200, but it was like about 180. And it was pretty much a full room. That was a great show. But yeah, again, it was just because they were into it didn't really matter the number. Like you said, the energy. I've done shows where we had 40 people. It was kind of packed, and it was a good comedy show because the energy got
yeah. I like to be able to smell the beer on their breath when they're singing along.
there you go. Yes. And then you just start jamming, man. Start jamming.
Yeah. Now, as I mentioned, you're a Gen X.
Yeah.
Your parents were they Depression era people, or your grandparents Depression era people?
It'd be my grandparents, right? Yeah, because because my dad was born in 1940 and my mom was born in 1942. So
Wow, wow. Yeah, because my guest in the next hour has written a book about. I think it's about her grandmother,
okay.
who was widowed at the beginning of the Depression and had a family to take care of. And I
Oh
was
wow.
thinking about my own family, my mother and father's uh, upbringing. My mom was born a month before the Depression hit. She was born in August of 1929.
Okay.
Like 5 weeks before, the first week of October was when the market crashed. So she was a baby, an infant during that period, during the whole, beginning of the Depression, and she grew up in the Depression. My father was a year older, so he was an infant too. He was still a
Right.
both of them had very different experiences. I know
Ah,
my mom, her father was a sanitation worker in New York City, never lost his job and kept working through the whole thing. That was almost like being rich because you weren't poor, you weren't destitute in those times. Just an
right.
interesting time. We have
Yeah.
no appreciation for, or we've kind of lost appreciation for what that must have been like, and
Oh,
understanding.
absolutely. Good
It's
point.
just my parents, not my grandparents, and I'm separated from it enough that it's really hard for me to appreciate it. And I was thinking about it last night. I think it's an important kind of thing to think about every once in a while. What because we take so much for granted here, and we talk about in the political world. You always hear about how bad things are right now.
Yeah.
You have no idea. We have no idea.
Right. Right. It's so true. It's almost like, I don't know. See, that's a whole nother, but we don't have enough time. It's kind of like I'm not saying it's fake news, but what's thrown at us all the time is a lot of negativity. I think a lot of times you just gotta don't rabbit hole, don't go on your phone so much. I mean, how do you tell a Generation Z, like my son's age, 23? How do you tell someone in Generation Z, um,
Wow.
you know, like, don't be on your phone? They don't even know what that means. In fact, they drive so bad. Okay, I don't know how you feel about this, but I'm 55 in my 50s now. I get nervous when I hear about self-driving cars. I'm like, no way. But you know what? The younger kids drive so bad. If they come up with a stat that says self-driving is safer then yes, then I don't want you driving. All the young kids don't drive. You get in your self-driving car, then you won't hit me. I'm a responsible driver. I will drive my own car, and we'll all be happy. I mean, I can't see myself sitting in a self-drive. You heard about these? I don't know if they're really going to get into the world just yet, but I've heard
Well,
about cars
here's
that.
the thing. I hear what you're saying. Like they could be safer, but think about the tech problems you had yesterday, just with this
Oh,
kind of stuff, and scale that up to now cars. Like just a computer in a car just gone haywire, or something
I hear you.
freaking buggy, and then all of a
Absolutely.
sudden it's taking people out, killing people.
That would be horrible, and that's why I guess I'm only half serious. I'm kind of joking, kind of serious with that point about the Generation Z. Me, I can't see myself ever. I've been driving too long myself. I don't think I could sit in a self-driving car ever. I
Now,
don't know, man.
earlier in the
You're
week,
not in control.
or was it last week? I think it was last week.
Yeah.
Willie had a story about the first flying cars coming out, and they're available. And they're as cheap as a Tesla. Now, that's not cheap, but I mean, it's not like millions of dollars to own a flying car. That troubles me and scares the shit out of me. Like, I don't want.
Oh,
You don't have to
yeah.
get a pilot's license. You just need a driver's license.
Come on. That's disaster. That is a
Yeah,
recipe for disaster, man. Oh
yeah.
my God. I will just be staying in the house.
I
I
could
never wanted
see.
to, but I'll get my work from home job. I'm working from home. I'm not going out there. See him zipping by your window. I mean,
Well,
come on.
even that, a work from home job, and all of a sudden it falls on your house. Uh, you know, all that. I could see LA being like the first
Oh,
place to
oh,
adopt it because
that's
the traffic is just such a nightmare out there. They would be early adopters of it, but I also could see like massive disasters of things going wrong.
just the worst. It's just not. I'm laughing. It's so bad. I'm laughing. I mean, it's like, hey, honey, what's the weather like today? Well, I'll go open the window. Oh, there's a car coming right at us.
Yeah.
There's a flying car coming right at us. We're in trouble.
Yeah,
Bad.
not looking forward to the flying car revolution myself.
Or the
Yeah,
self-driving. Not at all.
yeah, well, the self-driving stuff. I think we have. I've been in a car, a Tesla that had self-driving stuff in it. It's against the law here in New York. You're not supposed to have those cars. I think this car was like from another state that was imported here, and the guy demoed, but I was nervous for it. And the power in those cars sometimes, it blows you back when the pickup it just takes off from the starting line. Really
Jeez.
powerful stuff. I'm not sure I want that in a self-driving car, like the superpower stuff. If you're gonna have a self-driving car, max it out and put a governor on it so it can't be like doing 160 miles an hour. Because the last thing
No,
you do,
no. Right. The
yeah,
fastest I would want to go is like 42. I wouldn't want to go. But wait, now
yeah.
where were you sitting? Were you sitting in the
I,
back? Were you
I was in the
sitting?
passenger seat. It was a two-seater Tesla.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Of course.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff. I mean, it's impressive on one level, but it's also scary as hell when you think about what could go wrong. You had tech problems yesterday, and I know it's not the same
Yeah.
thing, but computers are computers, and they do fail.
Right. They
Yeah,
fail,
they're not
and
infallible.
you don't want it to fail at the worst possible time when you're in a bad spot, and then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Don't need that. No.
Right. So yeah, well, it's been good catching up with you, and do come back. You're welcome
Thanks.
here anytime you want to come in. Just
Thanks
give
so
me
much
some
for having me
notice.
on.
Pick a
I
date.
hope you feel better. I didn't address that at all. You're not feeling good. I hope you feel better, man. There's nothing worse than being sick. And you're a
Yeah,
soldier
you know what? People
doing the
on
show.
my Facebook page keep telling me feel better, and I'm like, no. Don't tell me what to do. Don't don't tell me what to do. Not that I
Okay,
love.
right. Don't tell me. I hope you feel better. I'm not
I
saying
know.
feel
It's
better.
not that I like feeling miserable. I just know that these things run their course, and telling me to feel better just reminds me that I don't feel good. I can complain all I want myself, but don't remind me that I feel like shit. I'll remind myself enough.
Yes. Yes.
This always makes me
All right.
feel better, though. I mean, as much as I'm a chronic complainer, and I always talk about how tired I am in the morning and all that stuff, I couldn't imagine starting my day any other way anymore. I mean, talking to people energizes me, and it gives me something,
It's great,
takes
man.
me out of
Yeah,
myself.
I love watching it. I don't know if you see. I watch it as much as I can. I can't watch it every day, but I catch it when I can. It's
I
I
appreciate it.
love
Take it in
I
the
love.
car. Get the app. I don't push this enough, but on for Live 365, you can listen in your car if you have Bluetooth, and most cars do now. Almost every car has Bluetooth. Get the app and listen in the car. Take it with you. Take us on the road with you. We have lots of people doing that now, and
Yes,
that audience is
coffee with
growing.
the dog. Coffee with the dog on the road, people. Yes, got to do it.
There
Awesome.
you go. Well, Jay, thanks for being here,
Yep.
man. Have a great day and enjoy the sunshine because I can't. Bye, bye for now.
I hope you feel better. I hope you get the sun soon. Thanks,
All right,
Matt. We'll see you. Thanks so much.
take it.
Oh, wait. What's that
Oh yeah.
guy's name again for the funny bone?
Oh,
Send me
Dave
like a
Landau. I'll be in touch with you about that.
send me.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
write to him. I'll get the
reach out.
dates. I'll let you know, and we'll see if he's open to it. And we'll be in
Yeah,
touch about
do a
it.
little video. It'd be great. Shoot a little video with him. Absolutely.
Very
All
cool.
right,
Yeah.
man. Thanks. You have a great day.
See you later. Bye. Jay Morenti, folks. Follow him on Facebook. I will put the link in the description wherever we can put the links in the description. YouTube's kind of cracking down on that right now. Vinny Vanelli left a piece uh, for as a man on the street thing. I'm going to play right now, or I'm going to try to play right now. Got another thing open here. Vinny Stars here. Stars and Stripes. It's called Stars and Stripes.
Yes,
and
several
Maple Leaf.
times. I think the
Goes
greatest
something like
country
this.
on the planet.
Which country are you in right now?
Well, Canada. I know it's not polite to say it, but I love America, man.
We're here in beautiful downtown Toronto, and we're trying to get a gauge on Canadian-American relations. Have you ever been to America?
Not really.
No.
Have you ever been to America?
I crossed the border with my mom for a hot dog, but that was about it.
Where in America would you want to go?
Las Vegas.
Boston. I'm half Irish, so
You look half Irish.
well, I speak kind of Irish too myself, don't I?
Sure. And you guys are from?
Texas.
You're not Canadian,
Yes.
And I would go to Harvard University and I would study mathematics.
From the UK,
but you love our country
I definitely do, yeah.
more than America. How many states are there in America?
Over 20.
Over 50?
50 with 2.
51, but if you count Alaska, it's only 50.
How many provinces are in Canada?
About 13 or 12.
In Canada?
Yeah.
Don't ask me that.
5. 12?
I just want to make sure you lived here your entire life.
14 or 7, I think.
7 or 14?
Yeah.
10.
How many territories?
I don't know.
7 is the number of oceans on the planet, and 14, I think, is a very lucky number for if you want to just go ahead in life. 14 is a good number.
So Harvard, you said, right?
Harvard, yeah.
Okay. Does America have a president or a prime minister?
Prime Minister.
America, president. America has a president. They have a president.
What's his name?
Biden.
Biden?
I know Donald Trump. He's my favorite president of the USA.
Okay. What's your president's name?
I don't know.
Do you know what our prime minister's name is?
No, I don't know.
What's our prime minister's name?
Justin Trudeau. Oh.
And I see you're a fan, sir.
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely a fan.
Do you notice any differences between America and Canada?
Poutine, we have loaded fries.
There's not the same type of buses there.
What's the difference? Actually, same.
Kilometers and miles they use on the roads.
Your squirrels are black.
Oh, okay. What color are your squirrels?
They're brown.
Do you know the American national anthem?
No.
No.
Oh, say, can you see?
Oh,
by
say,
the dawn's early.
by the dawn.
Are you my echo?
Oh, say, can you see?
Our home and It's not working. Do you know the Canadian national anthem?
No.
We're sending you back to Chicago. So where are you going next here in Canada?
We're gonna try to find the bathroom.
When you're over 40, you need to use the washroom all the time. This is good info.
Wow. VinnyComedy.com. You know, Vinny seems to really have a thing for national anthems. I don't I don't necessarily get that, but we appreciate his work there. Now, the pirate guy is Canadian pirate guy. I call him a pirate guy, but he looked like a pirate. I don't know what to make of that. Why a guy dressed like a pirate and talking shiver me timbers in Canada? The other part of that is, man, people are stupid, uneducated. We tend to think it's just the United States where the education system is failing. But oh my God, you don't know how many people. One guy said there are 51 states in the United States, but if you count Alaska, it's only 50. That doesn't make any sense no matter how you look at it. First, it's 50 states in America, folks, if you don't know that. But if you count Alaska, that should make it, if you're adding one, counting that isn't, that would make it one more, not one less. And this guy's claiming he went to Harvard. They don't know how many provinces are in their own country. That's a little disturbing. I know there are people in America who don't know there are 50 states, which is disturbing. I mean, this is basic grammar school stuff, basic education stuff. They don't know if they have a president or prime minister in their own country, and they don't know his name, most of them. I mean, the pirate guy knew Trudeau. The pirate guy. But very disturbed. Oh, there goes Jordan Peterson, the manly man. These postmodernists don't know their own country. How could you be a man if you don't know your own country? It's just very, very disturbing to me, the lack of civics and training. And so it's not just the United States, folks. It's everywhere. People are just stupid. Not stupid that in terms of unintelligent, but not educated at all, even on the basic level of civics and stuff in their own home country. Quite disturbing, quite disturbing. Anyway, I'm going to take a short break for commercial. Today we are brought to you by TrueFire. Also, FundWise Capital. I want to say, if you got a business or a business idea, don't have a business yet, but you need money for your business, go to fundwise.com, apply.fundwise.com/minddog and get money. It's really simple. If you got a good idea and have it well documented and got your ducks in a row, you can get money to start a business. Or if you have a business and you need funding to grow your business or advance your business ideas, they can help you get money. Apply.fundwise.com, F-U-N-D. I know it's, with the stuffy nose, it doesn't even sound like I'm saying Fundwise. It sounds like I'm saying Funwise. Fundwise.com/minddog. Apply.fundwise.com/minddog. We're also brought to you by TrueFire. If you want to learn how to play guitar online, best place to do that is TrueFire. You can learn from some of the best players, teachers on the planet. No matter what your level, advanced, intermediate, or beginner, you're going to learn what you want to learn at your own pace. TrueFire.com. Check it out.
Over 2 million guitar players worldwide learn, practice, and play with TrueFire. Our learning tools and massive library of video lessons will ignite your technical skills, harmonic knowledge, rhythm playing, and soloing chops. TrueFire's educators are the best in the biz, from Grammy Award winners to world-renowned artists. You'll have access to an unparalleled faculty of over 300 top-notch blues, rock, jazz, country, fingerstyle, and acoustic guitar educators. Using our desktop and mobile apps, you'll work with TrueFire's multi-angle video lessons on any device, anytime, anywhere. Integrated learning tools such as video synced tab and notation, slow-mo, looping, practice jam tracks, and many more handy controls accelerate your learning experience. TrueFire style-specific learning paths guide you every step of the way. Use our assessment tools to find your starting point, then follow our lesson recommendations and track your progress as you work through your personalized TrueFire study plan. Progress faster with private one-on-one instruction, group lessons, multi-track video jams, live streams, song lessons, student forums, TrueFire's Riff magazine, premium jam tracks, and much, much more. With thousands of 5-star ratings and reviews from amateur and pro players alike, you'll find yourself in good company with the world's most comprehensive guitar learning platform. Grab your guitar and ignite your musicality. Sign up free for an all-access trial today.
You know, it works. It really works. TrueFire has proven results within our own audience. This is absolutely true. Some young man, I'll have to look it up, a couple of weeks ago, a kid who signed up to TrueFire because he heard about it on this program. I don't know if he's a kid. He seemed like a young man, and you can't tell this stuff from an email, but he had signed up, and he was a beginner, complete beginner, signed up for TrueFire and sent a video of him playing. Now, he wasn't Steve Vai, he wasn't like Super Shredder, but he was playing rock and roll and putting songs over very well in a very short time. I think 6 weeks, he said, took him to get where he was. On the video, he plays samples. He didn't play a whole song on any one of them. But he played probably 3 or 4 parts of 3 or 4 songs. Very impressive. So it works. Sign up if you want to learn how to play guitar, and it's cheap. I think your first month is free. I think that. I don't want to speak out of school here. Maybe I'm wrong here. Anyway, call the man. Will be hosting the show on Thursday. I have my first media interview as a congressional candidate. I'm a little nervous about it because why? Because I don't really want to get into all the minutia of the divisive politics. I'm running as an independent. Everybody knows that I am not a Trumper. I think Donald Trump not only ruined the country, but ruined the Republican Party. I think we need 2 parties, and this is something I've said a million times. I think we need 2 strong parties in a 2-party system. A 1-party system, we've seen what that does. We have historical references of how bad a 1-party system can be. So I don't want to even go near that. But I don't want to get into conversations about Democrat, Republican, or playing favorites of. And obviously, right now, I think the Republican Party is in the shitter. I think that's largely, almost entirely due to the influence of Donald Trump. But I don't want to get into that. I just want to talk about the one issue. The only reason I'm running for Congress is to highlight the dirty money. The congressional, everybody in Congress, almost everybody or everybody, is bought and paid for by somebody else. In other words, they're not working for you. They're supposed to be representing you. That's why they're called representatives. They are your representative, but they're not representing your interests. They're representing the interests of corporations or people that bought and paid for their seat. And I want to expose every single one of them. I want to call them out on all of it and say, who do you work for? Who paid for your seat? Anyway. So I'm a little nervous about the interview. I have not obviously done a media interview for my political campaign. By the way, do I have the banner? Yeah, Matt Napple for Congress, 2034 in New York 3. Now, George Santos currently holds that seat, and I'm going to challenge George Santos to come on the program and debate me. Now, this is my turf, and he's probably going to be a little reluctant to do that, and he's probably reluctant to do any media stuff. He's under indictment for fraud and money laundering and all that kind of stuff. But the whole thing with the interview on Thursday is I want to call out that the district should be embarrassed that they sent this guy to Congress. I mean, it was pretty clear even when he was running, that he was a pathological liar about everything. Everything on his resume was made up. Everything. I mean, even his name. He had several aliases. So the district has a lot to make up for. Not that I'm necessarily going to be something to write home about or brag about, but my campaign my campaign motto is: listen, you voted for worse. And they should be embarrassed, and they have they have a lot to make up for. My guest is here, so let's move on. Earlier in the program, when Jay was here, we are talking a little bit about the Great Depression. And excuse me, still a little under the weather here. My mom, as I mentioned, was born in August of 1929. The Great Depression hit in October of 1929. So she's 6 weeks old. My father was a year and 4 weeks old when the Great Depression hit. They both grew up very different experiences, but managed to live through those times. And one of my greatest regrets while they were alive was never really understanding what that was like, going through the Great Depression as a young child and living through it their formative years completely, from grammar school. And I was thinking about last night, starting grammar school is like I was going to kindergarten in 1934. In the height of the Depression, what that might, well, there's bread lines and all that kind of stuff. It's hard to wrap your head around. Anyway, Gail Pinner, I hope Pinner is exactly the way I'm supposed to pronounce that, is a retired academic who is finally pursuing her career she thought she'd have when she was 12. She doesn't recommend waiting as long as she did to pursue your dreams. Gail is interested in strong women, resilience, and humor and hope that can help us get through difficult times. She has written a book called High Courage, which I'm not sure if it's a novel, a memoir, or nonfiction about her I think it's a grandmother. Might be a mother, but I think it's her grandmother's becoming a widow and having to raise a family during those years. She's here now, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in Gail Pinner to Coffee with the Dog. Gail, welcome.
Hi there, and it is Gail Piner. So
Piner, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I apologize.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
So are we talking about your mother or grandmother?
Well, actually, both. The main story is about my grandmother. She's the mother who was widowed at age 29, left with 6 children under the age of 13. My mother is one of those children. So my mother is a character in this novel. It is a novelized version of what happened because I only knew the very bare bones of this story. It was taken for granted in our family. And it was just openly, discussed, or referenced, I would say, about things that happened during that period. But they didn't sit around, with long conversations. It was just a casual, oh yeah, when Daddy died or when Tom died, and what I had to do with you kids. And so I grew up taking it for granted. And as I guess so many kids do, we're much more focused on our own lives. We think our lives are way more interesting. And as a young adult, I started realizing how phenomenal this story was. And unfortunately, I always felt a little hesitant to ask my grandmother about it. I didn't want her to think that I was critical or questioning her decisions. That troubled me, that she would ever think such a thing, as I loved her dearly. She was an amazing woman, very feisty, very polite Southern woman, but she really had
It's
a lot
interesting that you thought about it, because I have regrets that I didn't even think about. I like you said, I think I took it for granted, and I did spend a lot of time with my grandfather, he was probably 35 years old when the Depression hit, but. I never asked him about it, and part of my regrets as I get older at this stage of my life is that I had a great opportunity to learn about a critical time that I think we were talking about this earlier in the program. I think we all take for granted. You hear in the news sometimes how bad things are in America right now. People have no idea what bad really is.
Right.
And I had a great opportunity to learn firsthand from people, and I didn't take it. And that's one of my greatest regrets in life.
I so agree with you. And one of the things I'd like to get across with my book is that we all have, every family has amazing stories. Every family, every generation has stories. Our own lives will be amazing 2 or 3 generations away. And yet, the everyday things like, how did you spend major holidays? What did you do? What did you eat? When did you start celebrating? Did you put your tree up the night before Christmas? Or did you put your tree up, Thanksgiving Day, as so many of us do? Things change in such a continuous, subtle way that we tend not to have these huge breaks. And so, to anyone who has children, grandchildren, don't worry about boring them. Tell them anyway, because they will come to treasure it. And if you can bring yourself to write anything, I have a few letters that my grandmother wrote to me when I was off in graduate school in upstate New York, where she hoped I would not fall in love with a Yankee, by the way. And then at the end said, honey, I'm just kidding about that. Not really. But I think that these little things that some people might hold themselves back. They think I'm not a writer. I don't have really good English skills. I don't have, spelling, punctuation. Nobody will care. Nobody will care about that. What they will care about is how granddaddy proposed to you. Where you went. Did you have a honeymoon? Where did you go? I had to make up my grandmother's wedding night.
Wow.
Can I tell you that's a little awkward?
Yeah, no.
It's extremely G-rated. It is my grandmother.
Right.
But I had to imagine that she went to this fabulous place here. I'm in Wilmington, North Carolina. Wrightsville Beach is, adjacent. And there was this fabulous pavilion called Lumina Pavilion that I think most people would be amazed that it existed at that time. It was actually built to show off the power of electricity. It was a 3-story monster pavilion with, it had bowling alleys on one level. It had the main thing was the huge dance floor. And with live bands, and very famous musicians would come and play, and people dressed to the nines to go there. So, and all 3 stories were so lit up with enormous light bulbs that sailors could use it as a landmark out to sea.
Wow.
And trivia point, do you recall who David Brinkley was?
No.
Huntley Brinkley was
the news guy. Yeah, David Brinkley. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
was from Wilmington native. And one of his first jobs was to change the light bulbs on the Lumina.
Wow.
So it was this enormous thing. So I wanted to weave that into my story. So I have them spending their wedding night at a hotel right next door. And this place, by the way, had a full-size movie screen out in the surf where they would show silent movies, because that's what they had then. So Charlie Chaplin movies would be shown, and people would sit on the beaches or on the decks of the pavilion and watch a full-length movie.
Wow.
Is that not phenomenal?
That is definitely.
That we have forgotten ever, because of course it got torn down around 1970, but it was pretty derelict. But it used to be, people came from all up and down the East Coast to go to the Lumina. So I have that in there. There was a beach trolley that I grew up hearing my mother talk about taking the beach trolley from downtown Wilmington by the Cape Fear River all the way to Wrightsville Beach. And that was the only way you could get onto the beach. They didn't have roads. They had pilings or whatever for the trolley car to go to. So I picture my mother as this young 18-year-old getting on the trolley car with her girlfriends. And what a fun thing that must have been to go through all the way through town. It had to have been at least a half-hour ride. just to go to the beach.
Interesting. Now, there's a whole lot to ask you about here. First of all, Wilmington, North Carolina. Did you have a southern experience growing up, or did you grow up in the north, or where did you grow up?
Well, yes to both of those. My father was in the Navy. So I spent from 3.5 to 5.5 in Groton and New London, Connecticut, where I went to kindergarten, which the state of North Carolina at that time in the 50s did not have kindergarten. So I had a bit of a leg up, but apparently that's when my accent locked in. So I came home and I heard, and this is not an exaggeration, almost every day of my life until I was 18. Honey, you're just not from here, are you? Because we didn't have a lot of outsiders living here. Now I have a theory that the state of New Jersey is empty. They're all
My
here.
brother lives in North Carolina, and he
Yeah.
says everybody here is from New York.
Exactly. They're New York or New Jersey. My plumber shows up. I go, okay, New Jersey or New York? You go, oh, New Jersey. It's just to meet someone from here. And I was born and raised here, but I moved away for almost 40 years. So when I retired, I came back.
The reason this interests me is because I'm thinking about my own past, and both my parents had very different experiences during the Great Depression. I think of the South as still kind of like divided between aristocracy and poverty. And the picture on the cover looks like a woman who was probably somehow connected to the aristocracy, or the beauty of the South, the big Victorian houses and all that kind of stuff. And it just takes me back to that. But I know that there were, vastly different experiences. Even up here, my mother and father had very different experiences in the Great Depression. High courage. What is the meaning of that, and what is the life that your grandmother came from? I know she was a widow at the time, but was she? I hate to use it, upper class, middle class?
No, she came from farmers. So this is actually a very accurate rendition of her house, which still stands 2 miles from where I'm sitting. And you can see the sound and the ocean from her property. So the artist who did this did an amazing job. And oddly enough, the woman on the cover, who is so gorgeous, looks so much like my Aunt Irene, who looked like her mother, my grandmother, that it's kind of spooky, because I certainly didn't. I just said she has to have blue eyes and, put a hat on her. And I really wanted to obscure most of the face, but it didn't work out that way. But anyway, no, they were a farming family. My grandmother actually was perhaps a little bit better off than her sister. She had 4 sisters but my grandmother, Mary, in the book, married Tom, who was actually a farm manager. So he wasn't necessarily a farmer himself. I'm sure they had a family, vegetable plot, because we all do. But he managed 5 or 6 farms that were owned by some landowner. So they were in this, slightly elevated from maybe farm class, but not by much. And they certainly weren't wealthy at all. And one of the many reasons I wanted to write it, the main one being to honor my grandmother and her strength and her courage, but also to show what it might have been like for people who weren't living in poverty, who, had steady work, but they certainly were not whooping it up at the Lumina normally. Yeah. They were not of that class. They weren't even merchant class, much less upper crust. And I do have an upper crust lady in here. Mary has a friend that I give her, and the house that I put where this friend lives on Front Street in Wilmington is a real house, actually, that I was a doyen for during one of our Azalea festivals, and it was put on public showing. Very, very fancy, very wealthy. So you had all these different, like any place, you had different levels of society. But my grandmother's was definitely very modest. She had a 6th grade education. So when she was widowed at age 29, sudden death of her husband, who was 10 years older than she She had 6 children, 4 months old to 12 years old. She had no source of income. What were the chances of her finding a job? Did I mention 6th grade education? And at that time, it was October 1928. She lives out in the country. She's not living right downtown. So she can't drive. She can read and write, which my grandfather could not. And it was the fact that they survived is amazing. I think the instant thought would be, well, she's got four sisters, and Tom had a big family, brothers and sisters. Move in there. Well, yes and no. They also had their own big families. So for 6 other people to move in with them, Mary and her 5 children, her 6 children, that was just not viable. And plus, the sisters are, every year or two, they're having another baby. So it wasn't really feasible. The only offer, and certainly I had to make up quite a bit since I only knew the bare bones of this, but the one thing I did not make up was that my grandfather's brothers, and actually there were 4 of them in the book, I just reduced it to 2, Otis and Elam, and I love those names. That was not their names, by the way, although there's our family name. Those names are in my family tree. But Otis and Elam wanted to take the children. They were very magnanimous. Not only would they take all of Tom's farm tools and animals and all of his possessions, doing her such a favor, but that they would also take the 6 children. And my grandmother told me that she was very sure that all they wanted was free labor on their tobacco farms. And they would never send her children to school. And her children, of course, would never inherit. Each one of those men had at least 5 kids already, and they were only in their 30s.
Wow.
So she could see that if she let them stay in the family, they were going to have horrible lives. And she really wanted them to at least have a high school education. That was the best they could dream of at that time. And that really happened. And so the courage is that here is this woman who's raised in the South at that period of time. They're raised to be always smiling, agreeable, obeying men, especially male relatives. And so when my grandmother stood up to these bullies, they did such a guilt trip. And again, I'm not making this up. She told me they did this. They told her Tom was spinning in his grave at what she was thinking of doing with the children, because the other option open to her was to put them in an orphanage.
Wow. That's I don't know how anybody can make that choice. It's a very difficult thing.
It certainly seems, I think on the surface, you go, well, you keep them in the family. Come on, you keep them in the family. So I'm thinking, knowing my grandmother, who did not make that choice, did not choose that option, that she really knew these guys and knew what their lives would be. They would be living as second-class citizens in their uncle's homes.
Wow.
And in the story, I have a chapter about a real relative that I remember, Mamie, who was an old maid, as they called married ladies of a certain age at that time, and probably still do. But her life, Mary got to see what Mamie's life was like, what living basically as a servant in her father's home, because when he remarried, and this is true, thank you, census data, her father, she was 15 when her mother died. Her father married very quickly to a 14-year-old girl, a year younger than his oldest daughter. So he had 5 kids with his first wife. And for a while there, Mamie would have been running the household. Then he remarried to a young girl who immediately, of course, started having babies. And before you know it, poor Mamie's living next door at the farm next door, taking care of a great aunt and a great uncle until one of them passes away. And then she comes back into the family and lives the rest of her life there.
Interesting stuff, man.
Yeah. So it's like what was it like to be looking for a job as a woman at that time? What were the kind of questions they were going to ask her that are illegal now to ask? Are you pregnant? Are you planning on getting pregnant? Are you just looking for a husband? You're a widow, right?
Yeah.
You're looking for a husband in this office, aren't you? So really oppressive.
And
So yeah.
if I can, part of the challenge here, and I don't think most people kind of would necessarily understand this, that even if she got the job, it probably would not pay enough to support a family of 6 people. And women in general, I mean, even today, we have a very wide pay gap. But in those days, women were probably looking, and they didn't have a minimum wage at the time. They were looking at probably $1. If I say $1 an hour, that's a lot, right?
My grandmother once told, she wound up finding a job, and I have this near the end of the book. She does take a job working at the Atlantic Coastline, which was a major railroad that ran up and down the East Coast from New York to Florida. Anyway, and their headquarters was here in Wilmington. In the late 50s, they moved to Jacksonville, Florida, devastated the town. It took us a couple of decades to regroup. But anyway, at that time, it was very vibrant, major employer. So she got employed there to scrub floors all through the night. And for many, many years, through the Depression, that's how she earned money, was scrubbing floors on her knees. And she said we'd scrub them one night, and then the next night put down wax, and the next night scrape it off and put in, start over on their knees. Huge multi-floor office buildings. So she told me once, and I can't swear to it, although I have found some pay stubs from that time for her, and it wouldn't be far off the mark. She told me she got 50 cents a night.
That's even less than I was going to guess, like $6 a week. Wow. Yeah.
It may have been a little bit more, but looking at, I have the pay stubs, and it shows how many hours and what she got, and it's not far. That's not that far off from 50 cents.
Insane. So how? I mean,
they did not live well, is the answer.
Yeah. And this is because my father was one of 17 children. He was the last of 17 children. His mother was near middle age when she, near 50 when she had him and wasn't expecting him. And he was born a year and a month before the Great Depression hit.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I did get some idea of what it was like for him in those days of eating. Like it was almost all filler type of food. They were, protein was a hard to come by thing. And this is things we take for granted. We talk about inflation and the price of things these days. Just general sustenance was a major challenge in those days, and it's important to appreciate that. I want to talk, and please don't take this as being critical of your work, but your story is for me. It's something I am deeply interested in. It's a book that I want to read. Also, the cover is beautiful.
Thank you.
It's a piece of work, but I don't think it disconnects because if I look at the cover, I look at it and say, that's not for me. That's probably a romance novel. It doesn't look like a historical record or novel about a Depression era. So that it's kind of weird because I know this book is for me. People do judge a book by its cover. It's a cliche, but it's absolutely true. And I look at it and I say, well, that's a beautiful piece of art. I would love to hang that on my wall, but that's not like a book I want to read. Now, I know it's a book I want to read, but I wouldn't know that from the cover. Any thoughts on that confusion?
That's I must say you're the first person to say that to me, at least. But I do understand what you mean. It doesn't look, for instance, when I was working with, this is the whole, let's see if I can stretch.
I didn't see the back part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me take the book down. Hold on. Let me take the book down and solo you out for a second so we can see the whole thing.
So this is the back of the book. where we see I'm sorry,
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And
Nice.
so it's, it's a scene right there by the shoreline, and which is, as I said, really is where my grandmother lived. But the artist, originally the sky was black and the trees were black and it was very depressing. Well, this actually ends on New Year's Eve 1929. So we've had the crash a couple of months ago in October, but the real depression hasn't started yet. The 20s were the roaring 20s. Things were great. And I have in here where, they're reading from the paper and all these experts are saying, the 30s are going to be even better than the 20s. It's going to be wonderful. I mean, we have to realize what a shocker this was. And there were a few people who were, ringing a warning bell, and I have that in here. But people were like, oh, that's a weird kind of like early people talking about climate change. It's like, well, they're weird. That couldn't happen. But I agree that it does look pretty, but there is a lot in here about family life. There are funny stories. And
my only concern is that men would just pass over it and not know the significance that there's a really good story behind the book.
Clearly, the wives and the sisters have got daughters, have got to do their work and go, look, you're gonna like it. Take the cover off. Here's a solution. Well, first of all, if you read the ebook, you don't ever see the cover.
Right.
But you just take the cover off.
Yeah, there you go.
Doesn't that look like your kind of book? It does.
Absolutely.
Got a grip. Great book.
Now, if how long was your grandmother's life? How did she live a long life?
Yes, she lived to be 80. So she was
so all
amazing.
that work on your hands and knees scrubbing floors, it was a good thing for her.
And she had really bad knees, let me tell you, which I seem to have inherited. Actually, I don't know what that is, but she was. I end the story with an epilogue that takes place at the end of World War II. And it's been 17 years, so it's 1947, Christmas. They're back together as a family for the first time since they parted. I don't want to give away too much. At New Year's Eve, 1929. So they had not had a Christmas all together until like the two boys. There's 4 girls, and then the 2 younger ones were boys. And the boys are back from the service, and they're still in the service, but they're not at war. Obviously the war's over. So I have them kind of catching up, and we see how these kids turned out. They're starting their own families, most of them. But I tell a story that actually happened to my grandmother. She, in her later years, started enjoying pier fishing with my step-grandfather. She remarried, and that's in the epilogue. And he was the only granddaddy I ever knew. So, but they would go off to the pier and fish. And one day he went off to get them a soft drink or something at the little concession stand. So she's by herself. And there were men there who were drinking out of brown paper bags. Clearly they were drinking. And they started cursing and using bad language. And my grandmother, who had a wicked sense of humor, but you did not curse around that lady. I mean, no, that was not going to happen. And she finally had enough, and she turned around on them, put her pole down, and turned around, looked at them, and told them they would no longer be using that kind of language around her, that she was there to enjoy herself, and she was not standing for it, and they could just behave themselves.
I appreciate that.
When I heard her tell this story to my mother and my oldest aunt and Irene, and they were like, oh, "Mother, those men could have been horrible to you," because it's really happened in the in the 60s, but not in the 40s where I put it. But they were horrified that they could have said something horrible to her, been rude to her. My mother was like, one of them could have hit you. Who knew? To them, it was so dangerous to do such a thing. And my grandmother was like, I wasn't going to stand there and deal with this.
Yeah, I have because I think in today's world, probably the loss of civility would be more evident. But I think my experience with that is I would be intimidated by a strong-willed Southern lady telling me to behave myself.
Oh, she said their response was, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that would have
They
been
were,
mine
yes,
too.
ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. I am, and I think the times that would have been a normal behavior. So I think your family's response to your grandmother telling that story, I think, is probably more based on modern world things. And
Yeah.
even today, if a strong older Southern lady told me to behave myself, I would be intimidated. I would say yes, ma'am. I'm
I
sorry.
would hope
I'd be
so.
apologetic for it.
I mean,
Um,
really.
I want to turn to you for a moment because you're an academic and you wanted to be an author your whole life. You have since you were 12. Why wait so long? Well, first of all, what field in academia were you in?
Psychology and management.
Okay. Now, why? How did you? If you had this idea or this dream at 12 years old, how did you end up being in that area of psychology and management and not pursuing the authorship?
I think that when I went to college, and it was my generation, my grandfather couldn't read or write. I have a PhD. So it was my generation of cousins, myself. We were the first ones to go to college. And I knew I had one thing my mother had made very clear to me was I needed to be able to support myself. And writing this book, by the way, made me realize where that came from. I had never really thought
Oh,
about it.
yeah.
I've had so many insights about my own mother, my own raising, because of almost 2 years of trying to imagine what it was like during that time. But I started out in chemistry. That was, what was I thinking? But then I discovered psychology. I was actually interested in animal behavior. And I went on and got my master's at William and Mary, went to a doctoral program for a year, but I was burned out. So I worked in the real world for a number of years and finally went back and got a doctorate in management, which is in many ways applied psychology, because I was so amazed working at different companies, how poorly run they always were. They were horribly managed. I kept thinking somebody must study this.
Right.
And when I, found out that, as in fact, a friend of mine who had gone, we were in college together, and he had gone on and gotten his doctorate in psychology. We were chatting one time on the phone, and he said, "You should get a PhD in management." I actually laughed. And I said, "You can get a PhD in management?" Like, I don't know, be like, you can get a PhD painting nails. Not that to denigrate that, but it's like, really? It doesn't show in any of the places where I was working. So I was very interested because most of us do work in corporations, and it affects people's lives.
Absolutely.
It's important. And they need to stop screwing it up, how they are running these places and treating their employees, not to mention their customers. But the employee side, of course, is the part that I really got a full view of. I coming back from Christmas to find out that the little company I worked for had been closed down by the bank. And by the way, the checks they gave you right before Christmas, those were rubber. You won't be getting paid for like a month. It makes a great story when I started teaching, but it wasn't great to live through. In the 80s, corporate culture, you probably remember how, well, even now, how important, the corporate culture and how we're going to change our culture to make it better. I worked for a large company that sent around a memo on Friday afternoon that said, as of Monday morning, our culture is going to be this, and this.
Like you can change it with just a memo.
That's all it took was a memo.
Right.
It was like, why didn't we? And why was corporate America so enchanted with the idea of corporate culture? Because they saw the Japanese companies, which is where we got this idea, and
Demings.
how
Yeah, right.
profitable they were. And we thought, hey, we don't have to pay our workers more. We
Right.
just need to make them loyal employees. That's what that was all about. It was about taking advantage of workers.
Wow. You
So
know what? That should be your next book. Not that I'm not telling you what to do, but I mean, there's a whole that's a fascinating thing because of the
it
way
is.
that business has evolved. I worked for a company where I actually went into. There were five. It wasn't a corporation. It was a small company with exactly 50 employees, so they could always maintain their small business status.
Right,
Uh,
right.
but the five guys who ran the company, I went in and I started talking about the culture was messed up, and they looked at me like I had two heads. Like they didn't understand culture and its importance and
Right.
leadership and how you set examples of culture. You don't just put up a mission statement and expect people to behave in a certain way.
How about that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The whole mission statement, which of course came out of the corporate culture love
Right.
affair.
Yes.
Like, oh, we'll just have a great mission statement. That'll take care of it.
Yeah.
It's like, where is your common sense?
Yeah.
But they read a book on the weekend, that touts this stuff. They come back on Monday morning going, oh, I know how to fix the company, and it won't cost us anything.
And the
I also,
relationship to psychology today is because I used to do a business edition at 1 o'clock every day, and it was business leaders, and they're so full of pop culture nonsense that it's not traditional psychology; it's pop psychology. It's the latest thing that some guru said, and all that stuff, and it gets really conflated with cliches that make everything sound so easy and
right.
change.
Right.
So what? There could be another book in that, but I
I think you could be right. So that is how I spent my adult years, was doing research. I did research on corporate governance, so looking at misbehaving CEOs, that no shortage of things to look at there. And so I wrote, but it was academically, not
Right. Yeah.
fiction.
I get
So
it.
this is definitely a novel. It reads like a novel. It can't be a memoir. I'm old, but I'm not that old.
Well,
So, it's like, I wasn't there in 1929, but it is a labor of love. And I think that I don't want someone thinking, oh, it's just going to be depressing. It's not. It is a very hopeful book.
no,
It looks at a woman who had nothing really in her favor except maybe a loving family